they put Tabasco in my drink. So I hate Tabasco. I hate spicy. So I went to drink. I was very thirsty, so I went like quite aggressively. I started like sweating, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? I did my second test in Imola. And I remember at the end of the test, I slept with the fireproof stuff. I went to sleep with it.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the new Silver Arrows radio show. And it's the first one ever, so this is one to mark in the history books. My name is Steph Wentworth, and let me tell you, I am joined by a duo. An incredible duo. Let's start with Kimi Antonelli. He is a two-time Grand Prix winner and the current leader of the World Drivers' Championship, which is no pressure, of course. It's great to have you here, Kimi.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Amazing. And right next to you, freshly minted Deputy Team Principal Bradley Lord. Ladies and gents, let's give it up. Well done. It's so great to have you all here in the studio.
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here.
Of course. And what an incredible studio it is. I hope you like the colour purple.
Yeah. Purple is related to purple sectors,
Indeed.
which is a very good thing in racing. So yeah, I like that. I like purple.
Of course.
Exactly. It means happy, doesn't it? It's a good thing in our world. So yeah, very
fantastic.
much so.
Well, this studio is located in the heart of the factory in Brackley. Down the corridor, we've got the canteen. A couple of floors up, we've got Toto's office, so we can't make too much noise. We don't want to upset the boss. So it's great to be here. And really, the aim of this podcast is to bring you inside daily life here at Brackley and give you all of the insights that are never before seen. Bradley, can you give us any insights in Brackley? You've been a resident here for quite some time.
Yeah, I've been here. I think this is my 14th or 15th season here in Brackley with the team.
But who's counting?
No, exactly. Well, other people do for us, thankfully. We lose track. I think the biggest thing that we want to get across with this podcast is actually bringing people a bit of an insight what it's like inside the team. I think you can be on the outside, you can see Mercedes, an incredible brand, all the amazing partners that we have and things like that, but not really always get beneath the surface. And actually, when anyone joins the team, the first thing they say is, wow, it's so warm, it's so friendly, it's so supportive, it's so, such a just great place to work with great people. And it's not always easy to get that across in the pressure of a race weekend or when you're focused on getting cars out the garage and hitting really tight deadlines. So hopefully this is a chance to do some of that. I mean, Kimi, last couple of years, you've experienced that up close as you've come closer to the team, even though we've worked together for many years and just really understood a bit more of what the team's about under the surface, haven't you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more going on than what people actually see, behind the scenes. It's, I think, I always get amazed the first time I get back to the factory after, a break, or because, the amount of work that is put behind to build just two cars at the end of the day is incredible. And of course, we also have the factory back in Brixworth, who is working on the power unit side, that they do a tremendous job as well. And it's incredible to see the amount of people and the amount of passion as well, because at the end, we all have the same goal, which is to succeed and, to win. And it's pretty incredible. And I always get amazed the first day back at the factory.
Oh, you get chills when you come to Brackley.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I always enjoy coming here in Brackley.
What's your favorite thing about Brackley?
The factory.
Yeah.
I don't think, and there's an Italian restaurant I really like that I always go to. But I always like coming back to the factory, saying hi to all the people all the boys and girls that work here, and and it's obviously I spend a lot of time here. Pre-season was quite intense here. Obviously, with the new regulation, it's been quite an intense pre-season for everyone because it's such a big change. And but so far it's going good.
Can I just ask, is it weird coming in and seeing a 10-meter high version of yourself on the side of the car park? Because we've got the big
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I need to. They sent me a picture, but it's pretty sick.
It's quite
sick.
something.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, and I think definitely on the way back, I will stop by and have a look.
Great. Well, I think we've established the basis for this podcast about taking you inside the team. But that leads us very nicely onto our next section called What's New? And of course, we've had a little break since the last race, so there's quite a lot that's new. Kimi, we'll start with you. Of course, two-time winner, leader of the World Championship, and also recent homeowner. What's that like, living in your own place finally?
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's weird in the first place because, when I actually go back home, it's like all super silent. There's no one, so it kind of feel weird. It felt weird in the first few days, but then I actually enjoy a lot because it's my own space, and I also I really like the house, and I really enjoyed the time there. I've been enjoying, to be fair, the break at my house, even though it starts to be quite long.
Yeah.
And just want to go back racing because I really miss it.
So that's life since Japan. You've really been enjoying your newfound freedom, your newfound space, but we'll take it back a couple of races. Right before China, first pole position for the race. Of course, you had that sprint pole in Miami, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. So you managed to convert that pole into a win. First time. What was that feeling like for you?
It probably was so far the best day of my life. Being able to achieve one of my dreams and to get that first win. And the first one is always special because it happens only once. And, it was a very meaningful moment for me, for the team, for my family. My dad was there, which was great. Unfortunately, my mom was not there because she had to take care of my sister. But, I think it was a very great moment for everyone and for myself, especially because, as I said before, I was able to achieve one of my dreams, and was also a very emotional one, but it was super cool.
And what was it like when you got back to Italy, when you got home? I mean, I saw some pictures and it looked like you were completely mobbed at the airport.
Yeah, at the airport, there were journalists and stuff, of course, a lot of excitement because I think, the last one was 2006, probably.
Yeah,
the last winner, Italian
Fizzy,
winner,
wasn't it?
Fisichella. So, Malaysia 2006, if I'm not mistaken. So, long time. And to bring back Italy on top was really cool and definitely create a lot of excitement, which was cool. But at the same time, I always try to, especially after China, to keep myself grounded and focusing on to the next one, because it's very easy to get carried away from these moments, which are amazing. But at the end of the day, the season is still very long, and the goal remained the same. So, we just want more of that feeling.
Of course, and it's really important to stay grounded. And you've talked about your family, and they obviously rally around you. How have Mercedes rallied around you with this kind of newfound position that you're in?
With Mercedes, I've been with them since 2018, so since I was 12, and it's been an incredible journey so far. I grew up with them, and also, to be fair, last year, the transition, on that side, it didn't feel big because, I've been working with the team. I knew a lot of the members, so it was a very smooth transition, and, it's been amazing. And, Mercedes have given me so many great opportunities since karting days, and now obviously we're living a great moment together, and hopefully we can keep going this way. But definitely, I'm very happy where I am, and I got such a great support, and it's amazing.
Also, to give you an idea of how you keep a driver grounded, so today we've had a filming day at Silverstone. Kimi decided it would be fun to wheel spin out in the garage every time to leave massive black marks on the garage, which the guys then have to clean every single time he leaves the garage. So he's drifting out into the pit lane thinking, I'm super cool. The guys are having to clean it. So they take all the dirty cloths that clean the garage and stick them all down the sleeves of his jacket, just to make sure as he gets back out and puts the jacket on that they have a special thank you for him as well.
Yeah. But it's fun. I think what I also try to do is bring good energy in the team. I like to joke, with Bono, but with everyone. I was going to say,
you got a good prank in Bahrain.
Yeah, exactly.
A prank?
I'm good at pranks.
Oh, we need to hear more about this prank.
This actually was a prank that we both...
A duo prank?
Yeah, it was a duo prank.
Or I was involved in the back.
Yeah, it was. So he bought a water gun, very, very powerful one. And so basically, Bahrain, we finished the test, and I loaded this water gun. And obviously, also, I needed someone to distract Bono because Bono was my victim. And so Bono was like turn, so around, and arrive on, from the back, and I shot him with water. And you have to keep into account that he had to go to the airport. So it was like all wet and he needed to go to the airport.
Soaking.
But then he got his revenge.
Yeah. Oh, he's coming back at you.
He did it with my personal coach. His name is Sergi, and together they collaborate to do, a payback, and they put Tabasco in my drink. So I hate Tabasco. I hate spicy. So I went to drink. I was very thirsty, so I went like quite aggressively. I squished my Gatorade bottle, and I actually drank a lot of it. And then I could feel like the heat. I started like sweating, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And then later I realized it was Tabasco. And so that was his payback. But it's fun. It's fun. I like to, and it's like good energy. I like also to try and get the people involved in the team, because, I also like really respect all their work and what they do for me. So I try to involve them as much as I can.
And you were talking about Bono. I mean, it was, one of the iconic pictures, I think, from China was seeing not just you and Bono, but Bono and Lewis up on the podium as well. How was that to kind of share your first win, not just with your teammate George, but also with Lewis, who was, I guess, so important in helping you join the team?
I think I couldn't have wished for a better podium. Sharing the podium, with George, with Lewis, who has done the history of the sport. And I think also for Bono was a very special one. I think for Bono was a very emotional one, because he was standing on the podium with obviously his current driver and, his past driver who, they rewrote history together. So I think for him, I mean, I could see it as well. It was very, very emotional one, and definitely a special one. And I think it's one of those podiums that he will remember forever.
Absolutely. Dream podium, really.
Yeah.
100%. And I think Lewis was quite good, wasn't he? Also helping you enjoy the moment. And like selfies in the driver press conference and things like that, just making sure you savored it as well, because he knows how special it is.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis was super nice. He wanted to make sure that, that I was enjoying the moment, and, it was very, very happy for me, and he really showed it, and it was very cool. It was very, very cool for him.
Certainly for Toto, I think he was sort of standing there going, that feels like the Mercedes family up on the podium.
A proud dad.
Yeah, exactly. No matter what colour the overalls were.
Yeah, it's like
all of his drivers that were up there.
At the end, we say 3 Mercedes drivers were there on the podium. Yeah. No. It's like, three Mercedes drivers were there on the podium. So it was a cool one. Definitely a cool one.
Of course. Well, we do have to cast our minds back to 2024 when Lewis was a Mercedes driver and you stepped in the driver's seat for the very first time in an F1 car.
Yeah, it was incredible day. I think the first F1 test is the most special one. I think the first time you step into the F1 car. I think one thing that it's incredible, and that obviously from, even F2 is a lot different. It's the amount of people that are around the cars, the amount of engineers, the amount of mechanics, the level of details of the garage, of the car and everything. And it was, I remember walking in and saying, wow, this incredible. And it's all for me. I was very buzzed. I was very excited. And it was crazy because the day before was actually sunny, hot. The next day was snowing. So I remember waking up, opening the curtains, and it was snowing. I said, I can't believe it. It must be a bad dream. And I was like, what a day to do my first F1 test. But I still went out and did a few laps, and it was incredible, to feel the car. I think it's one of those experiences and feelings that is impossible to describe until you actually experience them.
What do you do though in the car? Have you just got a massive smile on your face? Are you cheering and whooping and just sort of celebrating?
I mean, internally, I think I'd be like
down for the first time.
Ah!
I was like, no, I had like a big smile the whole run, and I just couldn't stop smiling that day, despite that I couldn't drive because then the conditions were too tricky. But I still was super happy, and the next day was fine, and I got my first proper laps in.
And did it feel like pressure as well? Because even then you knew that, we'd spoken in January when Lewis gave us the news of his decision, and it was the same day you were testing, I think, at Silverstone, and came into the factory, sat down in Toto's office with with Toto, and he sort of said, look, this could be an opportunity. So already then there was the chance that it could lead to the seat in 2025. And was that pressure on you, or did you feel free?
Well, I felt mostly free. I would say, of course, there's always a bit of a nervous factor because it's the first time in the F1 car, and you also don't want to make a bad impression. And I remember being a bit nervous, but very excited. And then, once I went out, I just started to feel the car and enjoying the moment. And it was pretty cool.
The first run in an F1 car, and look at you now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like yesterday, to be fair. Like the first laps, it feels like yesterday. It's crazy how time flies by.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
What would 2026 Kimi, the Kimi that sat right across from me now, what would he say to 2024 Kimi?
Oh, that's very interesting. I think I've learned massively. Already, last year was a massive learning for me. But definitely one thing that I would say is just, be true to yourself, be always yourself. And as well, just not worrying too much about the final result, just enjoy the moment, focusing on the process. And but the main thing is to enjoy the driving, feel the car. Of course, staying focused, but when you enjoy, it's when you drive free, and when you drive free is when you're fast.
And we're talking about going behind the scenes here a little bit, and you were talking about, new house at home, got to do the cleaning, got to figure out what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch and dinner and things like that. But what does that process look like for you in, these 4 or 5 weeks where you're not racing? You've done a tyre test this week. We've done a filming day as well. But what's the day-to-day for Kimi at home as you get ready for those next races?
Well, let's start with the fact that there's always the thought of racing in the mind. There's always this factor that is really hard not to think of. But, I play a lot on my simulator. I have a simulator at home.
A whole room dedicated to it?
No. It's in the living room. It's well set up.
Okay.
I spend a lot of time there. I enjoy. But going back home, spending time with friends and family and doing the ordinary stuff is a good way for me to go back to reality, and and I enjoy that. I think it's needed at times.
Although, to be fair, I think you would sleep in a racing car if you could.
Yeah.
Over the last 3 weeks, we've had, can I go and drive this car here? Not sure that's a good idea. I'm going to go testing with my dad's GT3 team. Yeah, that's fine. You can go and test one of those. And so you just want to be on a racetrack all the time, don't you? And if you can't do that, you're in a go-kart.
I tell you this story. I did my first test in, obviously, with the F1 car. And then I did my second test in Imola. And I remember at the end of the test, I slept with the fireproof stuff. I went to sleep with it. Because
Is that not too hot?
No, I mean, obviously it was not long after that. It was not too warm yet, but I just felt like going to sleep. My mom was not happy because I was still dirty and stuff, but I just felt so comfortable because I arrived quite late at home, and I was just so comfortable that I said, you know what, I'm just going to go to sleep with it. And it was good.
Like a kid on Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like a nice pajama. And
to be fair, normally drivers lose all their kit, and that's something I've seen over 20 years of F1. You give if someone leaves with kit on, and it never returns. You never see it again. Yeah. Kimi manages to turn up in stuff that's 3 years old. That he's sort of kept, and somehow it's in the back of a car or in a suitcase, and then he turns up and everything's got the wrong sponsor branding on because it's from 2 years old. But
even this morning,
so special to you. You kind of keep hold of stuff still.
Yeah, even this morning I arrived with I arrived with the jacket from last year at the track. So yeah, I like to keep. It's cool stuff and good memories.
Great. And thinking back to 2 years ago, Bradley, Kimi's grown so much since then. What is it like from your perspective watching the kind of driver that he's turned into?
It's been fascinating to watch. I think we did lots of work even in 2024. We brought Kimi to all of the last flyaway races so he could so you could experience Singapore for the first time and the humidity and what that's like, and training there. And you were, I think, doing running races, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Bono and Shove and those guys in the evenings, and training with them. figuring out, we gave you some really horrible like jet lag plans.
Yeah.
So he tested in Qatar and then we flew him on the worst flights to Austin. So he started to get used to what he was going to have to do with jet lag, because you don't have that in the junior series where you're mostly only racing in Europe. But I think what's been really cool is actually seeing Kimi's belief in himself start to match the sort of trust that the team has put in him. So it's really easy, I think, when you're outside the car or, you know, observing, to assume every driver has perfect confidence in themselves at all times and that they have the belief that they can do it. And actually seeing Kimi build the belief in himself, go through the difficult bit last season, which I think cost you a chunk of confidence as well. But then watching you put what you needed in place to rebuild that with sort of Baku and Vegas and Brazil and those really strong performances at the end of the season, that's been the good thing. And it felt to me like, you often talk about the difficult second album or the difficult second season for a driver, and Kimi kind of managed to have about 3 years worth of learning in one last year, possibly just being in a front running team as well, in the pressure of a battle for P2 in the constructors. That is not often something that a rookie driver has to contend with. And actually, when we now sort of see the Kimi who's come into 2026, had the reset of the winter, and it feels like you have, to me at least, way more than one season's experience under your belt. And you did a lot of learning last year at high speed.
Yeah, I think like last year I've learned much more than what I would have anticipated. And also like what I'm really happy, obviously, with the opportunities that, you know, going straight into a top team, obviously you're under spotlight straight away. And I just had to learn, you know, deal straight away with a lot more pressure than, you know, I think if I would have gone into another team, it would have been a lot different story. And I think I would have learned a lot less. And I think this year, you know, despite the difficult time, which was, you know, were not pleasant, I think they made me a lot stronger and they were very helpful. And I think that's really helping as well this year so far.
So a learning experience.
No, it is, absolutely. And then, I mean, the other amazing thing I think to sort of see from the outside is, in Italy at the minute, there is this sort of generation of incredible young sports people. If you look at, there's Kimi, Yannick Sinner, Bez in MotoGP as well. And there's just this sort of wave of talent coming through. So there's something really cool in those parallels. And I guess you guys can all bounce off each other a little bit as well in terms of what you're experiencing and how to handle that.
Yeah, because it's good. I feel lucky because I have a good relationship with both of them. And actually went, to Beth's house last week. We had dinner together.
Who cooked?
No. We were like also with this group of friends.
Okay.
You need to make friends with a chef quite quickly.
Yeah,
find a friend who has a restaurant and just do it that way.
But it was really cool. And, you know, I think it's cool, especially first of all, for Italy, but as well as an athlete, seeing so much success from your country in all different sports, it kind of gives you even more motivation. And also, like in this case, that, you know, I have a relationship with Yannick and Beds. You know, we talk, and we support each other. You know, and that's cool. That's really cool because it gives you more confidence and more motivation to, you know, when you go on track, to do even better.
Great that you got those relationships with people who understand really what you're going through, because I'm sure it can be really hard and sometimes isolating to experience what you're experiencing as a top athlete in a sport.
Yeah, no, of course. And, we understand each other quite a lot, and we talk about everything, our experiences, and, and from that, we learn lessons as well from each other, just by listening to also their own experiences. And you can always learn. And they always, also especially Yannick and Bets, that they're a bit older, they can give also advices based on their own experiences. So it's pretty cool. It's very, very cool. And I'm very happy for Italy and for as well all the athletes that did an amazing job as well in the Winter Olympic, which was incredible to see.
It was amazing. Such an incredible crowd. And speaking of incredible crowds, we've just come back from China and Japan, which obviously have some incredible fans that are so passionate, so enthusiastic. And this leads us very nicely onto our next section, Fan Corner. Now, if you'll both look under the desk, there's a box filled with goodies supplied by the fans from China and Japan. I'm going to put a little challenge to you, gentlemen. I'd like you to show me what you have and pitch it the best you can. I'm going to decide at the end which is the best gift, and it will go in our metaphorical hall of fame here. So, Kimi, do you want to start? Do you want to present me a fan gift that you've had? Do you want to pop it on the table?
Yeah, this one is a very funny one. Sorry.
It's a life-size scale model of you.
Yeah, this is a very funny one. It's me, obviously. I'm very flexible. You can see I can do crazy stuff.
Of course, for those of us who are listening and not watching, Kimi actually has a version of himself in his hands. Kimi, do you want to describe it?
Yeah, it's like, how do you call this? Pupazzo, how do you call it?
Like a little puppet or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Little puppet doll.
It's like a mini version of myself.
Love it.
I'm very happy. Very happy version of myself. Yeah, big smile. And I also look quite jacked, to be fair. Good big shoulder. The waist is a bit small, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's funny.
I like it.
It's very funny.
Right. Well, Bradley, what do you have to counter Kimi's excellent...
To counter Kimi's...
gift.
Perfect gift of Kimi, I'm going for the George Russell driver card.
Ooh, hitting below the
Special
belt.
edition George from Japan driver card. Only because a lot of effort went into Japan.
Now, just show that right to the camera for those of us who are watching.
There we
if
go.
you're listening, it's...
Yeah, it's the George driver card.
Yeah,
it
that's
was
what it is.
the whole Wolf Adidas Y3 collab that kind of took over the weekend. And it was quite funny, actually, because we sort of talked about how do we do the livery of the car and things like that. Had this wolf on the front wing, and then there was a load of media speculation and stories about, they're trying to do something clever with their front wing. So everyone took loads of pictures of it as well, which kind of helped with, it would have been a great plan had it been a plan and not just pure fluke. But no, I'm just feeling that we're very Kimi heavy in this episode. So I'm putting some Georgeness into this episode as well to bring a little bit of balance. So George Russell driver card, special Japanese design, special Y3 Wolf design. That's what I'm going for.
Bradley, I'm sure you've mentioned that there were some excellent gifts that we actually don't have present here.
These kind of races are very cool because you get, the fans are so creative, especially in Japan. Mm-hmm. And you also in China, you get so many gifts and it's cool. And, for example, my sister, she always tells me at the start of the weekend, take all the gifts home because she has a full collection in her room. Yes. So.
Sure, she's taken all the gifts.
Well, I keep some, but she's very sweet, and I always give it to her.
That is very touching. I think you're alluding to something else, Steph.
I am indeed.
Yeah,
something I've heard on the grapevine.
As we said, there is an incredible intensity of fandom, and 12 months ago, my colleagues were absolutely delighted to find that one Japanese fan, his brother, had printed out a sort of life-size picture of my face, and they've appointed themselves Brackley fans. Now, I think they're the only ones in the world, and that includes my friends and family who wouldn't put themselves in that club. But this year they turned up with my face printed on a tote bag, which they very kindly gifted me one, and my daughter is now using it as her swimming bag at school. And so she's thrilled to carry that around with my face on, and her friends all think it's very funny indeed.
Wow, next line of merch coming out. Bradley tote bags?
I know we aim to sell merch, so that would be a really bad idea.
Okay, I see. Well, as we can see, the gifts from Japan were absolutely incredible, but it's time to say sayonara to Japan and bienvenido a Miami, because that is the next race. And it's one that we look forward to. It's quite a unique race on the calendar, quite a new one still. Kimi, some great memories from you last year. I'm not just talking about the sprint pole. I am talking, in fact, about that Lego race, which has gone completely viral.
I hope we're doing it again.
Oh, so you enjoyed it that much, you want it again?
Yeah, it was, I think, was the most hilarious drivers parade that we've ever done, and it was amazing. It was so funny. To be fair, I felt a bit bad for the people who built the cars because it took them a year to build all the cars, And I remember obviously the people from the F1 personnel on the grid, they said, please just be careful, just don't crash into each other. There was a lot of work put into it, and literally we took off, and after one corner there was the McLaren who lost half of their front wing, and we were just banging wheels, braking test each other. George was driving, and we even crashed in the last corner with Williams, and they just laid the new sponsor on the guardrail on the corner exit. And I remember with the Williams, we just did like 10 meters and we scraped off all the new sponsors. So it was fun. It was funny, and definitely I hope we can do it again, because I think everyone loved it.
So what's more memorable, the sprint pole or the Lego race? Which sticks out more to you?
I was going to say, it's a hard one to pick, I think. Yeah.
It's a tough one. No, I have to go with the sprint pole, because it was the first one. Yeah, the first one. But the Lego race was incredible. But I'll definitely go with the sprint pole. But I really hope we can do that again, the Lego race, because I think for the fans, for us driver was incredible.
Absolutely. And we'll see in Miami next week whether or not there'll be another one.
Yeah.
But there's lots to look forward to in Miami. Notably, Formula 2 will be joining and racing alongside F1. And of course, I know you're still very close with the paddock in F2. And it's really important that they're coming. It's going to be in North America for the very first time. Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool. I think, first of all, I think the weekend is very cool. The atmosphere is incredible. And, they're very passionate, the fans, and I think it will just add, it's something to add to the weekend. Having F2, I think it makes it even more special. And I like weekends where there are also other categories, because I like to watch and to see how they're doing, and and also they clean the track even more for us for FP1, so that's even better.
Get rid of all of that Lego.
But it's also looking ahead to Miami. We've not touched on it yet in this conversation, but obviously new rules this season. Lots of debate about the pros and the cons of those rules. We're obviously at Mercedes pretty happy with them. Had a good start to the
we don't
season,
complain.
But we know as well that some of the limitations that have been brought in, we need to do the right thing and help, be constructive in those proposals. So we know we'll be racing with something slightly different in Miami, and it's a sprint weekend. We've only got one practice session, then you're straight into qualifying. How big a challenge is that going to be to adapt for you, for the engineers, and the team working in the garage? Yeah, definitely, it's not going to be easy, because obviously there's this rule change, and it's gonna change things a little bit, but all in all, we'll try to prepare the best way as possible. We've got so many great tools, simulator, definitely a lot of simulator, especially ahead of Miami. But it's going to be a challenge. Spring weekends are always a challenge. Only one practice and then straight into qualifying, and you have to be on top of it. You have to be straight on the rhythm, because it's just you wanna build momentum, and then you wanna be able to carry it. So it's a challenge, but I like sprint weekends. I like it because it's an extra challenge as a driver, and also to do 2 qualifyings and 2 races is pretty cool. Of course it is. And you're just talking about the challenge of the sprint weekend. Somebody else in this room has just had a very big challenge this afternoon. I would like to welcome in one of our very special guests. We're actually going to be joined by F1 Academy champion Doriane Pan, and she is coming in. Welcome. Hey. She's had quite the eventful day. It's wonderful to see her. Hi. And we were just talking to Kimi slightly earlier today about what it was like when he first raced in an F1 car, when he first tested an F1 car, should I say, a couple of years ago, and you have finally just tested an F1 car. How was that feeling for you? What's the experience like? You're fresh from Silverstone. You've just got out of the car.
Yeah, it was an amazing day, to be honest. One of the best days of my life, to be honest. Driving a Formula 1 car is something that is not very common, and I think I'm very lucky to have this opportunity. But the day was amazing. Working closely with the team and keeping improving throughout the day, and feeling this amazing car around Silverstone is big and is good feeling. One of the best feeling I have in racing and driving a car. So I enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, does this remind you of the kind of feelings that you had when you first got out of the car?
Yeah, of course. And it's such an incredible machinery. I think it's really hard to explain what it's like driving an F1 car. Even compared to an F2, it's massive difference. So being able to experience it and drive it is very hard to explain.
And Dori, you've driven a lot of cars in your time, currently driving an LMP2. What's the difference there? How can you even describe it?
Yeah, as you said, Kimi, there is nothing compared to Formula One. I mean, it's I drove in LMP2. It's a fast car. We reach more than 300 kph on the straight, especially in Le Mans, 320, 25. But still, braking, combined downforce, the speed itself is another world compared to what I'm used to, and compared to what I've drove before. So it's something that you don't expect until you drive it for the first time. And yeah, obviously you need a bit of time to adapt and to understand how it works. But until you do drive, you have no idea how it feels and how it will be. So a lot of surprises today, even if we prepare quite a lot this test. And I feel I was in the right window to have a good day, because I've been working closely with the engineers and the team before. So I think we prepare well this test. So I was comfortable in the car today.
How relieved were you to open the curtains and realise it was dry and not raining at Silverstone in April?
That's, when I woke up this morning, I was like, okay, it's dry. Yeah, because it was close to rain during the night. So no, it was a really, for first day, you have a...
Yeah.
It was snowing, no?
Yeah, it was snowing, yeah.
Yeah, I have a better first day with the Formula One car for sure, yeah.
But you have a massive smile on your face, just like you did. Like, you can't wipe it off. We were just talking with Kimi about whether he was smiling under the helmet, and you just can't wipe that smile off your face.
Yeah, you can't remove it, to be honest. Even all the mechanics around, all the people who are working behind the scene that you sometimes don't see and you don't realize, but there's so much work, and such unbelievable to be working with all of them and be involved with that and stuff. So yeah, it's been a beautiful day. Yeah.
An unbelievable experience for you. I'm so happy for you. And we'll chat to you a little bit more. We're going to leave that for episode 2, though, to give you something to wait for. But it's been a fantastic first show. Let's finish it up with some predictions, or expectations, should we say. Expectations ahead of the weekend in Miami. What are you hoping for as a team? Bradley, should we start with you?
I think, first of all, we're hoping that what we've done with the other teams, with the FIA and with F1, will mean that some of the complaints and the criticism have been addressed. And I think what's on the table is not quite yet finally decided, but what's on the table goes in a really good direction to preserve what's important about these cars and this rule set and the intentions of the rules, but helps to change some of the things that are a bit counterintuitive for the drivers in qualifying in particular, but still maintain the really good racing that we've seen so far this year, the overtaking, then the sort of yo-yo overtaking that people really enjoy. And then we just want to really try and make sure we're still at the front. It's going to be a close battle. McLaren were really on the pace in Suzuka, having had a difficult start to the season, partly through, the Mercedes power unit as well. Ferrari are right there in the mix, and we've seen close and intense battles with them. And then a brilliant sort of fight between George and Kimi, and neither of them has quite had a smooth run through the weekend so far. So it'll be fun as well to see if both get smooth FP1, and then how that sort of competition starts to shape up as well, because that rivalry as an F1 driver is always there, and your teammate is a colleague but also your biggest rival. And so we know that that's going to continue to grow. It's in a really good place at the moment, and we hope we'll stay there too. But we want it to be intense, and we want it to be all-out competition on track, and so it's going to be fun to get back to that as well.
Of course. And Doriane, we know Miami is intense. What can the drivers expect when they are in the car?
I mean, it's a good track, obviously, a very high speed in Sector 1 and then more technical in the second part of the track. But yeah, I think you can expect a good race as well, because we can overtake quite a bit in Miami. So I think the race will be exciting.
Amazing. And Kimi, you'll be racing. What are your expectations for the weekend? Obviously, you've just had 2 quite incredible ones, hoping to replicate it for a third time. Third time's the charm.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to be back from where we left off, and or even better. So, I've been trying to work hard, physical side, prepare. Obviously, now there's a lot of preparation ahead of Miami. So the goal is to be back from where we left off, because obviously we wanna. I mean, with the cancellation, it was not the best because when you have such a momentum, you just wanna keep going. You don't wanna stop, but. We just want to be back strong and just rebuild the momentum in order to be able to carry it for the rest of the season.
Amazing. Well, we will look forward to Miami, and that's all we actually have time for today. So the checkered flag has finally waved on the first episode of the new Silver Arrows radio show. Thank you to all 3 of my guests for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with all of you. Doriane, of course, we'll be chatting with you a little bit more in episode 2, so make sure you tune in for that, of course. And if you want to keep up with all of the action surrounding the Miami Grand Prix, make sure you're keeping up on the team's social media channels. Of course, all the episodes of the new Silver Arrows radio show will be available to listen to on your usual podcast platforms, and you can also watch us on YouTube. Thanks to Kimi, Bradley and Doriane, and thanks to you for listening and watching. We'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.